Now that we have the dynamics and the equalizer settings where we want them, we want to change the loudness of this file with the limiter. So let's add another module. The limiter is found in the dynamics section. So when I call that up, I'll again want to make sure that it's at the end of my signal chain. And the limiter has 4 different sections. There's a balance between the mids and the sides. There are 3 frequency-based transient controls. There's also a way to add harmonics, both the second and third harmonics. And then we have the limiter, which has 2 different modes. There's a brick wall limiter and a maximizer. And it's the maximizer that we can use to increase the loudness of the file and get it into a range that is more standardized for this type of material. So I'm going to bring the master rig down here a little bit in my interface because I want to be able to monitor my loudness meter as I'm changing the limiter settings. Let's go ahead and start some playback at the beginning of the file. And you can see now, before the band really kicks in with all those other tracks, we're at minus 21.0 LUFS approximately. So we already know that the average of this file in LUFS is about minus 16.9. So what we're going to do is bring the maximizer optimize control up a little bit. And what I'm doing is looking on the loudness meter until I see that LUFS get to about between minus 14 and minus 11 LUFS. What I'm going to do now is hit the reset button so that I can monitor the loudness of the file right now. We're at minus 13, minus 12. And since this is one of the louder sections of the song, this is a great section to hear and monitor the loudness. Now we're getting there. Now we're at about minus 11.5 LUFS. I'm listening to this audio a little bit now, and I'm watching this limit gain reduction meter. And I can hear it working a little harder than I want, so I may want to back off some of the optimize, but I could also try the different algorithms. We're starting here on classic. If we go to modern, it's a more customizable setting for both the recovery and the release in milliseconds. So the recovery right now is set to 50%. If I increase that, the limiting will become more transparent. Now I don't hear it working so hard, and also my output control is set to minus 3 dB. That's just the default setting. If this were going to go onto an audio CD, I'd want to change that to minus 0.3 dB. And now let's listen to the file right about here. And you could do some parallel limiting with the mix control. Right now, we are just going to use it at 100% because I don't want anything to exceed minus 0.3 dB on the output. I'm still hearing it a little more than I want to, so I'm going to back the optimize control off a bit. And if I wanted to introduce some of the transients in the low end back in, I could bring those up a little bit. Get that kick drum a little bit punchier, maybe even bring up some of the gain. I could also control the level of the mids or the sides. And while I'm doing that, take a look at the phase scope up here. Right now it's nice and wide. That thread is going from the left and the right pretty far. But if I wanted to increase that stereo image, I could bring up some of the sides. Or if I wanted to flatten it out, I could bring some of the sides down. That will narrow the stereo image. I actually kind of liked what it was doing, but I was probably using too much. So let's just bring the sides up about 1.2 dB. That sounds quite good to me. Let's add one more module. Let's add the Saturator. I'm going to put that in front of the limiter. And this allows us to add tape or tube saturation to the file in 4 individual bands. So that high mid band, let's add a little bit of tape saturation to that band. And I'm going to turn on the listen for filters here. It doesn't need a lot. And then let's take a listen to the before and after using the smart bypass. So here's the original. And the processed version. Let's update the gains a little bit so they match a little bit more evenly. Now this is one thing I've discovered. This may be a program bug, or it may just be because I'm recording the screen of my computer, but sometimes the update gains doesn't really match up. I'm going to use a custom correction of -1 dB right now. Here's the original. And the processed.